This is a Honda NSX, and so is this, and this. The NSX was the supercar of choice for the aficionados, people who valued incredible engineering, a certain legendary test driver and handling prowess over big flashy badges and overabundances of power. It's easily one of the coolest supercars ever made, and here's why.
Japan's first proper mid-engine supercar was supposed to be a best-of-all-worlds affair. Fast enough to make a Ferrari feel foolish and easy enough to drive that you'd have to be a proper spanner to crash one.
The year is 1984 and Honda wanted to make something a bit special, so it commissioned Pininfarina to design a concept car, the HPX Honda Pininfarina Experimental. It came with a 2-litre V6 and it was designed to beat anything that came out of Italy or Germany. As the concept turned into a prototype, it got a new name, the NSX, and its target cars were the Ferrari 328 and later the 348. That's how it ended up with a 3-litre V6. You know how the NSX's cabin looks a little bit like the one you get in a fighter jet? Well, that's not entirely unintentional. You see, Honda's designers used the F-16's bubble as a bit of an inspiration because it gives 360-degree visibility. As such, the cockpit's nice and far forward and there's loads of glass in it, so you can see really well. And that also means the deck at the back is nice and long, which gives better high-speed stability.
The NSX made its public debut at the 1989 Chicago Motor Show, then again at the Tokyo Show of the same year. It went on sale in 1990 in America as an Acura, in Japan and Europe as a Honda. It was a flagship to be proud of.
Built to highlight F1 tech, the NSX is loaded with interesting things. For example, its all-aluminium body saves 200 kilos over an equivalent steel one. Things like aluminium suspension arms save even more weight on top of that. Then there's all the toys. For example, 4-channel ABS brakes, forged pistons, titanium con rods, the first electric throttle control ever fitted to a Honda, VTEC. Basically, loads and loads of cool stuff to make sure this thing goes proper quick. I know all of that doesn't sound too exciting today, but, well, for the 80s and 90s, that was quite something. Oh, and its development driver, one of them at least, was a certain Mr. A. Senna. And when he drove it, he told Honda's engineers to make it stiffer. And they did, because Senna told them to.
Honda being Honda didn't just engineer the crap out of it, it also made sure it was solid as anything. Each car was assembled by a hand-picked team of 200 people, each with 10 years experience under their belt. Even the paint had a 23-step process, one of which was actually designed for aeronautics. The paint on this early model still looks good today. The first NSXs came with a 3-litre V6 with 270 horsepower, 210 pound-foot and a 0-62 time of 6 seconds, and its top speed was nearly 170 miles an hour.
A Porsche Boxster today would smash that. Realistically, it would walk all over it. However, for the early 90s, that was mental. That was proper quick. So this is the first NSX, the original one. What's it like to drive? Well, this is an automatic and the gearbox is horrible. I really don't like it. It removes a lot of engagement from the car because it doesn't really like changing gear. However, the steering almost saves it because it's a little bit woolly to start with, but once you pop it in, you get lots of feel, the car grabs and away you go. Throttle response, thanks to the gearbox, is a bit lacking. The interior for a 90s car is actually held up remarkably well. This one, being immaculately looked after by Honda, is beautiful. It's so clean, the lines are so lovely, there's no cack anywhere. In all, the original NSX, this one, it's rather nice. It doesn't feel that quick because of its gearbox, but Honda prided itself on the fact that the NSX was easy to drive, that anyone could get in it and still have a great time. And it really is easy to drive. The steering's not too heavy, but it still gives you beautiful feedback. You know what's going on. This isn't a hard car to drive quickly at all. Even with this horrible gearbox, we've got a nice straight, foot down. Come on, car. Oh, there we go. And brake. Harder than that, please, car. There we go. Brakes are very much of an error, but it is very quick. It's a lovely, lovely thing. It's so easy to drive, easy to see out of, easy to control. But for my next trick, I've got something a little bit more hardcore.
In 1992, Honda decided to make a harder-edged NSX for customers who wanted something a bit more focused, something with more bite. Engineers worked to lose 120 kilos from a standard car, so the Type R weighs in at 1,230 kilos. In car terms, nothing. How it was done, however, is when the R gets fun.
It came with no sound deadening, no aircon, no stereo, carbon Kevlar seats rather than something comfy, tweaked suspension to solve some early discovered surprise oversteer issues, and its engine was blueprinted as well, so it was properly put together like a race car. Honda made less than 500 of them, and they were supposed to be for Japan only, but a few escaped, and this is one of them. This is a 1992 car, one of the proper NSX Type Rs, and there are a few little things to it, as well as the no sound deadening and what have you, because it is quite noisy in here, especially compared to the early one. But you can hear the engine because the glass in between the cabin and the engine bay is very, very thin. Everything that could be removed was to make this a proper hardcore lightweight thing. The steering on this is absolutely phenomenal. It's so precise, you can just bang it into a corner, you feel everything, you feel the front, you feel what it's doing, it's dragging you, you're pushing it, but you know where the tyres are. Oh man, the ride is a lot harsher than the other car. It feels a lot stiffer, but as a result, this feels more like a proper supercar and less like a sofa. While the other one is very usable, and you could use it every day and you'd still get some lovely thrills out of it, this isn't a daily driver. This 3-litre engine is allegedly unchanged from the one you get in the normal NSX. However, because it was looked at and put together and properly blueprinted and all that, feels a lot more sprightly. That said, this has a proper gearbox, a 5-speeder, and it makes an hell of a noise. Oh, and we're doing 100, 110, 120. Because there's less weight in here, because of the work Honda's engineers did to ensure it was a proper lightweight track special, it feels so sprightly. It flies, this thing. It just throws itself along the road. It feels fantastic. Why isn't Honda making a car like this today? This is proper. This feels good, man. The ride's a bit hard, the gearbox is beautiful, the steering is beautiful, and the noise it makes. Who needs sound deadening when you can drive along with this thing shuntering along behind your head? This is perfect. There are many varieties of NSXs that appeared over the years. There was the Japan-only Type R, which I'm in right now. Then there was the aforementioned Targa Top, the US-only Alex Zanardi edition, which was built to celebrate many, many, many championship wins. And then the frankly mental-sounding lightweight special NSX S and S0 editions, which, well, they sound quite scary to me.
1997 saw some performance upgrades. The engine gained 200cc, upping it to 3.2 litres, and it also got a dollop more power. It got a 6-speed manual with better ratios, while the auto cars kept the same old 3-litre setup. A new aluminium alloy was used, allowing for thinner panels that retained the strength of the old car, and it got bigger brakes. As such, 0 to 60 times fell into the 5-second zone, even for the Targa roof versions, and in some tests under 5 seconds were managed for the coupe.
In 2002, the NSX changed shape. It lost its pop-up headlamps, it got wider rear tyres and modified rear suspension. In the US, you're only allowed to buy a Targa top, whereas everywhere else, well, they got the right to choose between a T-top and a coupe. So how does this feel compared to the original one? Well, the steering is markedly different. This is very much assisted and it doesn't feel great to start with, but then once you pitch it in, it feels nice, it feels good. The bigger engine, 3.2, also feels a lot freer. It feels a lot nicer, a lot smoother, a lot happier to rev. That might be in part down to the gearbox though. This has a lovely manual. It just feels nice and light and easy to use. The shift isn't too laborious, the clutch isn't too heavy, which often kills supercars. And because of the bigger engine and the lovely gears, you can do this. Noise, brake, and you feel the extra power as well. It does feel a lot fresher than the earlier car. It feels more like a car that made its way into the noughties. The other one did feel very 90s. There's just that little difference here that makes it just that little bit better. The throttle response is beautiful. The brakes, again, wonderful. And you can tell this is quite light. You can tell it moves around a little bit, but not too much. It feels stable where you want it to feel stable. And if you do something stupid, well, it'll let you know about it. It's not too hard sprung either. It is a bit soft and squidgy. It's still got a little bit of give in it, which might not be ideal for people who love a bit of track work, but it is ideal for people who want to feel engaged but also enjoy their spines and don't like giving money to chiropractors. Usability is something that supercar manufacturers kick about all the time nowadays. They keep banging on about how, oh, it's very usable, there's lots of space and there's lots of movement in the car, you can put everything in it and you can use it and it's all wonderful. But actually, a lot of the time that's utter tosh. Driving something like a 911 GT3 on a daily basis is hideous. You come to hate it because it's not practical. It's too hard sprung, it's too uncomfortable, it's too noisy. Whereas this will give you the noise when you want the noise. It'll give you the hard drive that you want, but it doesn't overwhelm you. And I love the noise that V6 makes. 3.2 litres of fun, that is. It's fantastic. It's not quite as hardcore as the R, which might be a little much for idiots like me. But this is the NSX. This is the easy to drive, usable supercar. It's a wonderful thing. I can see why people absolutely adore these things.
In 2005, the NSX was killed. It was a 15-year-old car and wasn't selling all that well, and its innings had been pretty stellar. However, before it went the way of Betamax, Honda had one last trick up its sleeve, the second generation NSX Type R.
The second generation NSX R, they lost the Type bit because, well, they like losing things in that. A lot of weight, for example. Its curb weight was 1,270 kilos. There was carbon fibre pretty much everywhere, no sound deadening, no aircon, no stereo, nothing really. It was a balls to the wall track car. And here's the thing, even though it was 15 years old at the time, it still managed to do the ring in the same time as a Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale. Today, a Honda Civic Type R, the new one, would humble it quite happily, but man, it's a serious bit of kit.
Over its 15-year lifespan, the NSX gained a lot of fans, from kids playing with them in Gran Turismo, hi, to grown-ups who wanted an alternative to the regular German or Italian fare. It's quite telling just how good the NSX was when Gordon Murray was on the customer list, and Jack Nicholson. hero.
The NSX's run was long enough at 15 years, that's fair to say, and while it was around, it kicked all kinds of ass. There's a new one on the way, but it's been delayed, well, lots. I don't think, though, that's because of any overt developmental issues. I just think Honda wants to get it 100% straight out the box so it can have another 15 years at the top.